Hello, 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 friends of the pod, and welcome back to the Popcorn Patrol podcast. You're here with me, your host, SJ, and I have my good friend of 15 years,
Jeff,
Mr. Francis himself. Mhm.
hope you guys have some popcorn ready and a nice drink because we're getting ready to sound off on this week's review. You are now listening to the Popcorn Patrol podcast. We are here with another one. This week's review is a new goodie. It's a continuation of last week's review where we did Top Gun. This week we're doing Top Gun Maverick, which is the direct sequel to that masterpiece that we reviewed last week.
It's that time, Jeff. Give us the facts and the stats. What do you got for us?
Top Gun Maverick was released May 27th, 2022, and it stars Tom Cruise, Jennifer Connelly, Miles Teller, Val Kilmer. It had a budget of $152 million, and at the box office, it brought in $1.5 billion. Similar to the first one, it made a boatload of money at the box office.
Maverick is still pushing the envelope as an aviator for the Navy, and he lets the ghosts of his past haunt him while he leads Top Gun's elite graduates on a mission that demands nothing but the ultimate sacrifice from those chosen to fly it. So I think people were really interested to see where this movie was going to go and how it was going to go.
Well, how it started out was very similar to the first one. It opened up with that nice shot of the aircraft carrier with the jets, people giving thumbs up because they're ready to do whatever they're doing on the
The
carrier.
tarmac.
Yeah,
And you
the
know
tarmac.
what?
Yeah.
It had the exact same feel. It was very formulaic. You knew right from the movie, you get that little notation, that little forward again saying what Top Gun is. You know right away what you're getting. I
Absolutely.
think we both knew right away what we were going to get when
I'll
we
say
watched
this.
the second one.
I watched the first one just on my couch with my wife a couple years ago. And then when my wife seen the trailer for this one, she's like, we're going to see that in the theater. And it's like, okay. So I got to see this in the theater when it opened up. It was a great experience. Tom Cruise actually had an intro before the movie started at the theater where he thanked people for being patient, that they originally planned this movie to come out before the pandemic and then it got pushed into the pandemic, and then once the pandemic hit they decided that they were going to wait it out and then they released it after the pandemic. So he was on screen, he thanked people for coming out to the theaters and supporting the cast.
I also, just to add to your stats and facts, I also found out my husband was telling me that um, they used F-18s in this film. And the reason they used F-18s is because it has two seats, whereas the F-22, which is a newer plane, only is a one-seater. So they couldn't film properly from a one-seater, so they needed to have the F-18s for the two
Okay.
seats to film. So I thought that was pretty cool from a filming aspect. It makes sense, obviously, but something like that, I would never think of something like that on my own. So it was kind of neat to kind of hear that aspect.
And
Um,
keeping with the opening scene that was very similar to the first movie, after that opening scene, we see Maverick reminiscing about the events of the first movie.
right.
And then so he's like fixing his airplane, and then he's like looking at pictures and stuff from like from scenes of the first movie.
Mhm.
And then he goes racing off to this test facility where they're testing out a new jet.
Yep.
This I loved this scene. The scene like with him getting there and them saying, "Oh, the Admiral shut us down. Admiral Kane shut us down.
Yes.
We failed to do what we needed to do." And he's like, "Well, we got 2 months still, you know." And it was I love the scene where he's just like, "Well, we got time. He's not here yet, so I'm just gonna go take the jet and do what I do, which is
Right.
not follow orders."
I know, but they made it seem like, when he has he has like a mini training montage, and
Yes.
he like goes on the treadmill It looks like he's on there for 10 minutes and they're like, okay, we're ready.
Yeah,
That's what it
yeah,
like looked like to me. I was like,
yeah.
well, damn, I wish I could like run on a treadmill for 10 minutes and be ready to go up into a flight, you know. It was pretty funny. I thought that was pretty funny, but you know, it makes sense. And then you see again Maverick's personality coming through there. He is pushing the boundaries, questioning authority, and just really just going for it. Even though he knows what the consequences are, he doesn't care. He's doing what he thinks is correct, you know.
Yep.
And that goes along with the themes from the first movie as well.
There's that part of the scene where he's in the new jet that they're testing, and he's trying to get up to
Mach
speed,
10.
and Admiral Kane commands that, like, orders him to turn around and basically come back and land the plane, and he's like pretending that the radio is out, but he's actually just
Oh
not
yeah, he's just
saying certain parts of the words to make it
right.
sound like it's staticky. And then his crew member just plays right along. Oh, this is the problem that we've been having with the communications, the comms the whole time, and and they're hit and miss. And then he
Yeah,
looks up at the guy. He's like, "Has anybody got you a coffee yet?" It's just like it's funny where they
yeah,
didn't have a lot of that comical stuff in the first one. Like
right,
it was funny, but it the first one was funny, but it wasn't like a joke funny.
right,
Where some of these have a couple one-liner jokes in this one
right.
that is kind of funny. But he
Yeah,
hits Mach
definitely.
9. They say he's the fastest man alive. And then Maverick calls out to Goose, which he did in the first one. He's
Yep,
just like, talk to me, Goose, and to help him figure out what he's got to do. And then he hits Mach 10. And in true Maverick form, he pushes that envelope a little bit further and hits 10.3 before his ship seemingly explodes.
I
Like
know.
it looks
But
like it explodes.
I have to say those moments where he's pushing the boundaries there and get trying to get up to Mach 10 and even past it, like it's intense. Like you really feel like you I felt like I was driving the plane. I was or the jet rather. I was like, "Oh, damn, we're going to go over 10. Let's do it."
Yeah.
I was all in.
He somehow like survives. I don't know how. Like the ship or his jet looks like it explodes, and he just like walks into this restaurant, and he's got like I don't know, it looks like burns or like dirt on his
Yeah, his
face.
whole
He
suit
just
is
like drinks
burnt.
that water, and everybody's kind of like looking at him, and he's
I
just like,
loved
"Where
when the
am I?"
kid I loved when the kid was like, Earth. But all the kids are like looking at him because he's dressed in like what looks like almost astronaut gear.
Yes.
So they don't know that he's a pilot, right?
Yeah.
But they think he's like gone to outer space
Yeah.
or something and he's coming to Earth. I thought that was cute. That was a cute little scene, and it was just very like he's just very quiet. He takes the water, he drinks the water, puts it back, and asks where he is, you know. And I thought that was a fun little scene that they
Yeah.
put in there.
So Kane pulls him back into the office, gives him a lecture about how he should have done more with his military career and that he hasn't done anything and he's still a captain. He should be a two-star admiral by now. And he just keeps bucking orders and not following the rules and gets in trouble a lot. And then he's like, but it's your lucky day because Iceman wants you at Top Gun.
Right. But Jeff, why was he talking like Maverick's character is a fossil when he was over there sitting like looking like Skeletor in his chair? He's like talking about how like he'll be obsolete in the future and basically saying that they won't need men or women to man these planes.
Right,
They'll
because these planes will be piloted by themselves.
right.
So that's why he's telling him like you don't need to do all this stuff because you're not going to be around because they're not going to need humans to be in these planes. So you're basically he's telling him he's worthless. So he goes back to Top Gun. This is kind of where the movie starts. They tell him about the mission. You're gonna have to destroy this uranium plant in an enemy base, and Maverick looks at it and basically says that someone's not going to make it home from this mission. And this is where Maverick decides that his mission is to be one of the people that flies the plane on this mission because he knows that if someone's not coming home, that he's going to make sure it's him because of that very reason that he's this old flyer that they're not going to need anymore. He's done everything he wants to do and can do. So then he goes to the bar because they go to the bar a lot, and he runs into his old flame, Penny.
You can see there's chemistry there, and they obviously have a history.
Yep.
I imagine that he met her after, way after his relationship with Charlie from the first movie, and maybe this is even his true love, right?
Could be. Yep.
Yeah, I think
Very
we
well.
get that kind of sense. They make it
Yep.
seem like that's what's going on in the movie for sure. That's what
Mhm.
I got out of it.
So they talk for a bit, and then she points to a sign that says that if you disrespect the bartender or the ladies, then you have to
Or
buy
you have your
everybody a
phone
drink.
on the
On
bar.
the counter, yeah, on the
Yeah,
bar, yeah. Then you buy everybody a drink, and it doesn't seem like it ends. It seems like anybody that walks in just gets new drinks on him. And but this is kind of where they introduce all of the pilots that they're going to have in the
right.
program in
The
this
new
scene.
recruits.
And Miles Teller makes an entrance. Like he
Mhm.
walks in and he looks like Goose. He, talks like him. He walks like him. He, but he makes this amazing entrance, I thought.
Yeah, yeah, no, I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. He comes in there with his full stash and he's and he's walking in like he owns the place. Cool, cool cat.
Yep.
But, he seemed more like more out there than Goose did. Like Goose
Mhm.
seemed to be like the sidekick kind of, but I didn't get that vibe from Miles Teller's character,
Well,
Rooster.
or sorry, Rooster didn't have a friend either. He was by
Right.
himself, right?
Hmm.
He didn't seem to have, none of them seemed to have like that really good friend. They all just seem to be,
Like
they
on
all
their
seem to
own.
be cocky in their own ways.
Hmm.
But Hangman and Rooster seem to have a really good rivalry right at the beginning. Like they already knew who they were. They already knew things about them. Like Hangman, they call him Hangman because he's going to hang you out to dry.
Right.
He's going to leave you in the dust. So then they kick Maverick out of the bar because he can't pay his tab, which I can't blame him. Like it's probably a really
The thing
expensive
is, I
tab.
don't think he couldn't pay his tab because he had a black card. So I think she just said that because she's playing with him. Like I don't think, like, how would his card decline? How?
I'm not sure, but later on in the movie he goes in with the money and pays her. So
Right.
I so
He
obviously
definitely has the money. So I don't think his card declined. I think she just said it declined so that he would
okay.
get thrown out or
All right.
whatever.
Fair enough. Well, he's out after he gets kicked out of the bar by the pilots. Rooster's on the piano playing Great Balls of Fire, and he's watching him through the window, and he's remembering Goose
Goose.
from the first movie, playing the same song on the piano and him singing along. And he kind of seems like almost like a bit of depression
Hmm.
going on, like he's reliving the grief and still feeling guilty about it, which they talk about again in the later on in the movie.
Um,
And then it's almost a mirror of the first movie. These guys kick Maverick out, and then the next day when they're in class, they realize he's the instructor.
Yes, it's a
And
very
so it's
formulaic movie.
yeah,
You know what you're gonna
absolutely.
get.
Yep,
It's they kept basically they made this movie for anyone who loved Top Gun. They made this movie for. They
absolutely.
didn't give a crap about new storyline. They
Nope.
just said, let's just if it's not broke, let's not fix it. Like let's
Yep.
just keep whatever worked in the first one and do it again because people loved the first one so much. It's near and dear to their hearts, so they cut and pasted and did the same.
Yeah.
Mm.
So like when they go out on the training field, they fly around, and it's a similar game as the first one. You got to shoot down your opponent in this training exercise.
Yep.
But you can see the kids are really cocky, and Maverick is not necessarily as cocky around the kids. Like he's not the one that's leading the arrogant attitude and like that kid. Like if we thought he was cocky in the first one, these kids are way more cockier than he is.
Right.
And I guess maybe because in the first one, it just seemed like it was Maverick and Iceman that were cocky. But this one, it seems like all of them are cocky.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They
And so they're
all
just
kind
like,
of
hey, old man, Fossil, do you want to put like a bet on this? Wants to put some stakes to this competition? He's like, what were you thinking? And he's like, well,
100 push-ups.
yeah, 200 push-ups
Oh, 200
for
push-ups.
yeah,
Yeah.
200 push-ups for the people that get shot down.
And I
And with
love the fact that, you know, Maverick kind of dodges all of their hits, and they end up and shoots them all down, and they
oh yeah,
end up having all of them
all
end
of
up
them.
having to do 200 push-ups each. And it's kind of funny because it's like they're trying to top dog him, but he already knows where he stands, Maverick, so he doesn't
Yeah,
need to do anything. He just shoots them down easy peasy.
yeah. And Maverick and Rooster, they get into a bit of a pissing match over their history.
Hmm.
And then we find out that Maverick pulled Rooster's application to the Naval Academy, and
Right.
that basically Rooster's been angry at him about it ever since.
Right. And we don't know
Yeah,
why at that point. It's not said why. But we find out later on in the movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
Maverick gets pulled into the office, a lecture about the hard deck limit, which is given flashbacks of the first movie because in the first movie the hard deck limit was 10,000 feet, and in this one it's 5,000 feet. Funny moment is when he is being told by is it Cyclone? It's not Cyclone this time. It's the other guy, right? John
The
Hamm's character.
yeah.
John Hamm's character. Yeah, he's telling him, anytime you want to make any changes, it's got to be submitted in written. And he hands him a folder, and it's already the changes that need to be submitted.
Right, right.
Yeah, well, hilarious. Yeah,
He's ready. He's ready to go with the changes.
yeah,
And then
yeah. His name's Cyclone.
Cyclone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So John Hamm's character is Cyclone.
yes, yeah,
Yeah. Uh,
yeah.
and um you see the other guy go like timing is everything.
Warlock. Yeah, he
Yeah,
tells him
Warlock.
timing's
Warlock's
timing's
timing
everything.
is
This might
everything.
not have been the best time to hand that in, but
But Warlock might likes Maverick. Like you could
oh
see
yeah,
that Warlock
a lot of
likes
respect
Maverick.
there. He likes him. He
Yeah.
knows he's right most of the time.
Hmm.
While
Hmm.
this is happening, though, the other pilots they learn about Maverick and Rooster. They learn that Maverick and Rooster know each other.
Right.
They see a picture of
Hangman discovers that.
yes, yep, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And then Maverick and Peggy they go or Penny, sorry, go out into the sailboat, and you can see that Penny. You can see that Penny still loves Maverick, even
Yes.
though that he broke her heart before.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot of flirty stares, and
yeah,
you can see it on Maverick too that he does care for her. He does care for this woman greatly. Um and it's more than just like, fling or whatever.
yep.
Yeah.
So the next part is they're in the classroom again and they're going through the plan of the mission. And Hangman really gets under Rooster's skin by talking about his old man in class.
Hmm.
And they're fighting and arguing about it, and it's almost a fist fight that they need to be broken up. And you can really see that Maverick looks like he might start having doubts about this mission,
Yeah.
where he's like he looks like he's struggling. He's really giving it lots of thoughts. But and while he's thinking about this, Iceman orders him in and into his office, and then this is where we get to see Val Kilmer. And Val Kilmer only has a couple lines. He does a lot of typing on a keyboard and shows on screen. I think
Yeah.
this was when Val Kilmer was really sick and struggling.
Yeah, he had throat cancer, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think.
So it was
Yeah,
really
I
nice to see him
really
in there, though.
you see them texting throughout like Maverick.
Yep.
You see at the beginning of the movie them texting, and you wonder, like I wondered, I was like, are they gonna bring Val Kilmer? I'd really like to see Val Kilmer
Hmm.
if he was able to be on screen. And then they don't disappoint. They bring him on for that scene where Maverick's called into um, Iceman's office and
Yep.
they're chatting. And so it was nice to see Val Kilmer And even though he only had a couple of lines, I thought he did a great job. I thought
Absolutely.
he played the role of an old friend happy to see another friend.
Yep.
And they had a there was a line at the end of their conversation where Val Kilmer goes to Tom Cruise, like, who's the better pilot?
Hmm.
And Tom Cruise goes, let's not ruin this moment or
Yeah.
something. Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
yeah, it was
But
kind of
Maverick
cheeky.
opens up a little bit and basically gives a little bit of context to the scene before where he's
Mhm.
kind of thinking, and he tells Iceman, he's like, look, if I send Rooster on the mission, then he's gonna die.
Yeah,
But if I don't send him on the mission, he'll never forgive me.
right.
And he's kind of all that he has without having him at this time.
Yeah.
That relationship gets better in later on in the movie, but and now we have a new iconic shirtless beach scene, but now they're not playing volleyball,
They're
or
playing
what they're playing
football.
football. Yeah,
American
yeah,
football.
yep,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah. And Maverick is playing for a little bit, and then he goes and sits down on a chair, and Cyclone comes over and he's like lecturing Maverick about wasting time. And he tells Cyclone that no, this is like a team bonding. Like we need a
Right.
team. We don't need a bunch of pilots doing a bunch of stuff. We need a team that can work together. And this is helping them. And you see them getting along. They're not arguing. They're not fighting. They're
No,
playing. They're including each other. And
they're
it
having a
it, it, it
blast.
does seem to be making the team bond a bit.
Listen, I wanted to go out and play football. I don't know nothing about football, okay? But I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm going.
Yeah.
I'm going to go have fun on the beach.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the next scene, we have Maverick and Penny. They're kind of getting a little frisky. They
Hmm.
kind of stop, but they start talking about Rooster and why Rooster resents Maverick. And that's when Maverick tells Penny that Rooster's mom didn't want Rooster flying.
Yeah.
She made him promise before she died that he would do all that he could to prevent him from becoming a pilot. And then that's why, well, sorry, that's not why he pulls the papers. He does say that he pulls the papers because he didn't trust
He doesn't
that
trust
Rooster was
Rooster.
ready. Yeah,
Yeah.
that he wasn't ready.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in
No,
that scene, in real life fashion, the daughter unexpectedly interrupts them while
right.
they're in this moment.
But
She
the
wasn't
thing is,
supposed to come home.
let's be clear. They weren't doing anything. They were having an intimate moment. They were just talking in the bed.
Right. Right.
They weren't like doing anything else.
Right.
But he was shirtless. I don't know why he was shirtless. Like, was he hot? I don't like I don't know why he was
Well, they were
shirtless
in
if
the
he was
bedroom
just
and they were on
talking.
the bed together. So, I mean, it's not a far-fetched
No,
reality
I
that
guess
he would have
not.
no shirt on.
I guess not.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were in true fashion, like you were saying, the
Yeah.
daughter comes and it looks bad for him.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And
So he's like sneaking out of the house through the window and he's
yeah, like a
letting her know.
teenager.
So the words that he says is something along the lines of like, "This is the last time I'm sneaking out of your window." But what he means by that is he wants to commit.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
yeah, I want to be your boyfriend. So we don't have to sneak out. I don't have to sneak out the window anymore. And so he's trying to tell her that he's not going to leave her again and that he's ready to commit to
Ready
her,
to
which is
commit.
probably a big step for him because
Hmm.
he seems like a guy that might not be into a committed long-term relationship.
Right.
And then right away after that, he jumps down on the ground, and guess who's looking at him out the window that's open? The daughter,
Yeah.
who they were trying to avoid seeing. And she says, basically, kind of gives him the blessing by saying, "Just don't break her heart this time."
Right. While she's giving
Yeah,
him side eye though,
yeah, oh yeah,
like
yeah,
major
yep,
bombastic side eye, like
yep,
just
absolutely,
don't mess it up, basically.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then we get move into being back in the training area,
Yeah.
and they find out that the mission is being moved up because the uranium supply delivery has been moved up.
That's
And
right.
so Maverick goes through this mission and basically says it's going to require two miracles. The one miracle is opening the hatch doors with one rocket and then having another one go into the facility, and that is after they do the steep climb up and then in and then another steep
Back
climb
out.
up again.
Yeah.
And Yeah.
And they have to
So
get up to a certain speed. There's a
yeah,
certain
they got a
speed that
time
they,
limit that they got to get
and
through.
a time limit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they
Yeah.
have to
So
hit their target basically on the first try. There's no like farting around. Like they
right. Yep.
really
It's got
have
to be
to.
done in a specific order on the
Mhm.
first try. And yeah, so they move out onto the training field to practice some of these strategies that they need to use. And Coyote goes into a like a G lock
Mhm.
and basically passes out from the
Right.
G forces on his body, the G force on
Yep.
his body. Maverick is able to wake him up by locking his missile targeting system on him, which makes a sound in Coyote's jet in
In
the
his
ear,
pilot, his jet.
and wakes up just in time. And as soon as you think everything's fine and dandy, something else goes wrong with someone else's jet.
Right.
Bob and Phoenix run into trouble with their jet and they have to eject. But they're okay. Their plane crashes. They're okay, and they go to the hospital for overnight observation.
Right.
And then it's back to the heated discussion with Rooster and Maverick about why he pulled his application. Maverick tells him he wasn't ready, so he still doesn't tell him the truth yet
Yeah.
of why. I mean, it's kind of the truth, but it's kind of not. He doesn't tell him the full truth yet. And yeah, and he tells him up there. He says he's like, if you think up there, you're dead. You
Yeah.
can't think, you just do.
You just do. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then
Yeah.
Warlock interrupts them. Well, it's interesting when I watched this movie for the first time, and Warlock comes into the room. My first initial thought wasn't that he was coming in to tell him that Iceman died.
Yeah. That
I
was me too.
yeah, I was just like, oh, okay, okay, all right, okay, they
Yeah.
got that out of the way.
Because he just said it. He just says Maverick. He says one word. That's it. That's all we get. So it's
Yeah,
like, is he
yeah,
scolding Maverick or is he telling Maverick something?
yeah,
So then, but then the next scene they cut to is Iceman's funeral,
yep,
where you see Maverick take off one of the pins and jam it into the top of the coffin, and you see all the planes flying overhead, and it's like in a proper Navy fashion. They've got you know the whole ceremony going on there, and in their ceremonial attire. So yeah, it's very sad because like he's pretty much the only one from the first movie that you see in the second movie, Iceman? The only friend?
yeah. There isn't any other characters that are in the first one.
No,
It's just the two of them.
it's just the two of them. So then you see him kind of go, and yeah, it's a little sad.
Yeah.
But
But after the funeral, Cyclone kicks Maverick out of the training mission. He's just like, you know what? Sorry, the guy that has been holding you over us forever is dead, and too bad now. Sorry, you're getting kicked out. So Maverick runs to Penny, and she gives him some advice by saying, you don't give up. You know,
mhm,
if you were up there and your wingman got shot down, you're still gonna fight your way through.
yep,
So don't give up. And that's where I have it as at the end of Act Two. And then the beginning of Act Three, this basically is when all the action and fun kicks up. And
right.
by Matt, with like it starts off with Maverick stealing a jet, does the
Yes,
entire run perfectly,
yep.
shorter
Kind of
time
proves
than
them
they
all
need it.
wrong.
Yeah, proves them all wrong, and in a shorter time. It's supposed
Yes.
to be done in 2:30, and he's able to do it in like 2:09.
Oh
Like
no, yeah.
yeah, it's much quicker. And then Cyclone, uh, he reluctantly reinstates Maverick and makes him the team leader, which in
Right.
this case is the flyer, the guy that flies the
The
main.
head, the lead
Yeah,
guy. Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So Maverick visits Peggy at the bar to give her the news, but she's not there.
No, she's
No,
sailing,
yeah,
right?
she's sailing with her daughter somewhere, and the old man that's running the bar doesn't know when they're going to be back. But
Right.
now they're on the ship. They're preparing for a mission. Maverick picks Rooster as his wingman. This is a little bit surprising because Rooster hasn't shown anything at all in this movie yet that he's improved
Yes.
on anything. Every time he gets the opportunity to improve on something or change the way he believes in something, he doesn't. He just continues to stick to his guns. And in the end, he isn't right. It's not like he stuck to his guns and then did it his
Turned
way
out to
and it
be
was
right.
right, because
Hmm.
like that's the exact opposite of the result of Maverick. Maverick sticks to his guns and does it
But
his
he's
way and
right.
is right.
Yeah, and then they go on the simulate the mission, sorry. They go on the
Yep.
mission and they run into some issues during the mission. But I must say, like the flight scenes during that mission were pretty cool. Like where they're going down in the canyon, and he's flying pretty low.
They
Um,
filmed 800 hours of video footage in the jets.
I believe that.
They didn't film that much video for Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yeah,
Like that's how much video they shot for this. The whole trilogy of Lord of the Rings didn't have that much hours of footage.
I
But
know, and it's funny. Like how much footage did they actually use? Right? Like
yeah, compared to how much they
it's a
shot.
lot. Like
Yeah.
yeah,
One of the issues that they had was the targeting laser. So I'm not sure how this technology works, but it sounds like they can shine a laser on a target and then the other
and
plane
lock
can pick
onto
up
it.
that target and lock
Yeah,
onto that spot.
right.
And so they're able to, Maverick is able to have a lock on his from his wingman Rooster,
Yeah,
but when the second pair comes through, they're
they
not
can't
able to
get a
get a
lock
lock,
on it.
so they have to do it manually
Hmm.
and very successfully. Yeah. So another part was during the mission, Rooster is falling behind, and that's a common thing. He doesn't like to go fast.
Hmm.
So in this part, he calls out to his dad. He's like, "Talk to me, Dad."
Right.
Just like Maverick calls out to Goose to talk to him,
Hmm.
and then all of a sudden he decides, "Yeah, I can go fast now," and goes fast,
Yeah,
and that helps them with the mission.
right. And they manage to reach their objective. They get the underground nuke area, and then they've got to hightail it out of there.
The enemy base is attacking them, and when Rooster runs out of flares to basically decoy the heat-seeking missiles,
Yeah,
Maverick gets hit. He basically does that break thing that he does where the planes go rushing by and he falls back and then he gets hit by one of the missiles and
right.
crashes. And then Cyclone orders everybody to come back and our Rooster doesn't. He stays
Right.
and he takes down a helicopter that is chasing Maverick around just in time, but he
Mhm.
also crashes, gets taken out, crashes. Thought it was a
Yeah.
funny part when Maverick meets up with Rooster in the woods there, and he's like, "What are you doing? Like you're not supposed to come back. I saved your life." And he's like, "Yeah, but I saved your life," Rooster says. And Maverick is like, "What were you thinking?" And Rooster's just like, "I wasn't thinking. If I think I die,
Right. I
you
was
told me
too
not to think. I just did it."
think.
And
Yeah.
he's like, "Ah, yeah, I did say that, didn't I?"
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Yeah,
that
and then they go and they steal the enemy plane after that. Like they're looking for a way out of
yep,
the situation they're in, and they end up spotting this enemy plane in a hangar.
yep,
So they go to the hangar to try and steal this plane, and so they're like kind of sneaking in, and there's smoke and stuff going
yep.
on
They're
in
just
the
trying to
enemy
blend in.
area,
Yep.
and they manage to make it in and get the enemy plane. Now they have to
Which
fly this plane.
it's an F-14, and that was the plane that
Right.
not the actual plane, but like that's the model of plane that they flew in the first one.
Right, and they kept referring to it as like an ancient relic, or and they kept
Yes.
making fun of how old it was,
Yep.
right? Um, which I thought was funny. But anyways, they managed to get into this plane and get it up into the air. Uh,
Incredible.
yeah. And like they had no idea if this plane was going to work, but they risked it because what were they going to do? Just stay in the woods, right?
Yeah.
So they end up getting it up into the air, and there they are. I don't know if they're followed, but they're met by three of the enemy's jets.
Yep.
Now the enemies don't know that they're in the enemy captured F-14. They
Right.
don't know that those are Americans in there.
Correct. Yep.
So, um, you know, they're able to kind of Maverick and Rooster are able to kind of come up with a plan to kind of take those three planes out. And you see them, strategize and take some of these planes out. And then as soon as they hit the first one, the enemies are then like, okay, these are not our people, and you see them trying to get them. Um,
Yep. They
yeah, it
take
was a
it the
cool.
first one pretty easy, and the
Yeah,
second one is much tougher to take, but they eventually take them down too.
yeah,
Then they get over the ocean, and all of a sudden they're just like, oh, there's one more,
right.
and they're pretty much dead to rights. Like there was a line actually that Rooster says to Maverick. Maverick says, you know, we're in an F-14. We can't take on a fifth generation fighter.
Yeah,
And Rooster says to him, it's not the plane, it's the pilot.
right.
And
Yeah,
then
kind of.
Maverick kind of just like, yeah, you know what? You're right. Okay. I guess we just try our best anyways. And anyway, so they're dead to rights by this third one. And Hangman comes in the very last second.
Yes,
And
and saves the day.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then Maverick does a flyby of the control tower to everyone's dismay. One last time. They all
One
land
last time,
safely.
one last
Yeah.
go.
And
Yeah,
Maverick thanks Rooster for saving his life. And Rooster says it's what my dad would have done.
right,
And the most of the movie, Rooster doesn't understand why his dad would follow Maverick and stick up for Maverick and be Maverick's friend when he's that dangerous and irresponsible. But by
right,
the end of this movie, Rooster now understands why his dad was friends with him and why he did the things that he did for his for Maverick.
right. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, they kind of kiss and make up at the end there. Um, for sure.
Yep. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
kind of the end. Like they meet up with Penny at the garage and her
yeah.
daughter, but that's the
Is
end.
that his garage or his house? Because that's a pretty crazy house. If it's his house, it's like a hangar of an air, like a.
Well, I just think it's an airport that he's in.
But he's like having his breakfast there, and he's like living there and sleeping there
Yeah.
and stuff. Is that normal?
Oh,
Like, I don't know if that's a normal thing, but I noticed that he had like his coffee there, and he was just kind of hanging out there, and yeah, and he was working on his own plane. So I'm not
yeah.
sure what if that was his home or if that was part of the base or where that was actually.
Mhm.
If anyone knows, comment down below.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
This one's gonna get the large popcorn with the extra butter on it. This one has the same rating because you're pretty much getting the same thing that you got from Top Gun. You get in this movie. It has all the thrill, all the action. It's got a little love story. It's got, a little tension, high tensions going. It's got all the action. The flying is very similar. There are a lot of similarities with this movie. How about you, Jeff? What did you think about it? What's your
I
rating?
well, I'm also gonna give it a large popcorn. I liked it better
Mhm.
than the other one, but
Okay.
our rating system doesn't have uh an in-between step. So I would be like, it would for me it would be like a large popcorn and a half.
A
Like,
large popcorn. You can
yeah,
add stuff on it,
yeah,
Jeff. You don't have to be shy about it. Just put the butter, put
yeah,
the salt,
yeah,
put the
yeah. It's
the ketchup
I liked
powder.
it. I liked it better than the first one.
Okay.
Now, that being said, most of the fans and most of the critics liked it better than the first one. The first one got a Rotten Tomatoes score of 58%,
Oh.
which is ridiculously low.
Mm-hmm.
The audience score was 83%, which is probably a bit more accurate, right? Like,
Yep.
yeah. And for Top Gun Maverick, the critics certify freshed it at 96%
Wow.
certified fresh. Yep.
Wow.
And the audience score was 99%.
Wow. Yeah, I spoke to a lot of friends after this movie came out who had gone to the theater to see it. We live in a rural area, so it takes a little while to get to a theater.
Yep.
But they made the effort, they went, and they really enjoyed this movie. Like one of my girlfriends, she's like, "Oh yeah, I went out and I bought this on DVD or whatever, Blu-ray." And I was like, "Oh, is this movie that good? Like I haven't seen any of them. Like I don't know." And sure enough, it is good. It is so enjoyable. They're great. Like you said, you went with your lovely wife, and I feel like it's a good date movie. It's a good like sit
Well,
down,
this is
relax.
it's probably like the fourth or fifth time now that I've seen Top Gun Maverick. It
Oh,
was,
really?
yeah, oh yeah, seen it in
Yeah.
the theater and seen it like three, four more times after that. So it's a good movie. I like it.
Yeah, it was a good set of movies. I think we did two good movies. We had doozies this week and
Absolutely.
last week. So
I don't think we've decided what we're gonna do next though. Have
no,
we?
but we'll let you know. Stay
Yeah.
tuned on our IG and we'll let you know. Don't worry. Don't worry about it. It's a secret. Well, I'll give you a hint. We got school coming up in September. So,
Yes. So
yeah,
maybe we'll have
that's all
some
I'm
back to school themed movies or something.
yeah. We'll
Maybe
have to
we'll figure it out.
see how the bell rings. You know, it's a cheesy joke. I got mom jokes for days,
Yeah.
Jeff.
Apparently that's great. That's good stuff.
Yeah, so thanks so much for listening, guys. Please follow us on all streaming platforms. You can find us anywhere where you can download your podcasts as well. Um,
Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok,
yep,
uh, Spotify. We're at lots of different places. Check us out.
yep.
Leave a review, leave a comment. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. Again, tell us what you want to hear more of, what you want to hear less of. Awesome.
This
Another one in
this
the
is
books.
SJ, and I'm here with my bud Jeff,
Jeff,
and you've been listening to the
Popcorn Patrol
Popcorn
podcast.
Patrol podcast. Join us next week, and we'll get the kernels out for another movie, and we will announce that on IG and Facebook. So stay tuned.